This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Please be aware I am not a medical expert, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. Hey everyone! Welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. I'm Ashley. This podcast is based off of my blog of the same name, Eat, Explore, Love. It talks about the unique challenges in traveling around the world when you have celiac disease. Due to sort of popular demand, I decided to also record a podcast to delve a little deeper into my travels and the lessons learned along the way. Lindsay Shannon is more than a Reiki healer, a psychic, or a medium. She is truly inspiring. In our conversation, I felt incredibly calm in her presence, and I truly meant it when I told her that the moment I had the means, I would be looking into using her services that she provides. Her services, I truly believe, help others lead a better life spiritually. I know that when people hear someone's a psychic or a medium, they get caught up in the preconceived notions of what that means, but leave all those behind as you listen to my conversation with Lindsay. Hi, Lindsay. Welcome to the Eat, Explore, Love podcast. It's so nice to meet you.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me. So happy to be here.
I've read a little bit about you and I have a brief introduction to who you are as a person, but do you mind introducing yourself and letting me know in your own words, who you are?
Yeah. So my name is Lindsay Shannon. I have a brand called Ineffable Alchemy. I'm a Reiki energy healer and psychic medium. So I dabble in all kinds of different healing modalities, but those are my main three and sort of what I offer for people.
And what are the different? So for me, that's ignorant because I always assume that it's all one thing and it's all the same. And I'm sure for you, there's different nuances to each type of talent that you have. So would you mind walking us through what the difference is between all of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Not ignorant at all. If you're not in it, like I don't know how you would know the differences. And I like to preface by saying like these are how I've adopted, like my adopted views, like how I look at them. I'm sure other people will have other things to say, but as far as I'm concerned, so being psychic, as far as I'm concerned, everybody's psychic. You kind of have that little twinge of intuition in all kinds of situations, things like thinking of a friend and they text you the next day or even the next hour. I think of those as little psychic connections and winks. So really just acknowledging the the senses beyond the physical senses. And then I use those in like psychic readings and mediumship readings. So, psychic readings, I typically discuss with people like life, career, love, direction, clarity, things like that, more personal topics. And then mediumship, though just as personal, a little different. It's where I connect with loved ones that have passed. So, more so like personalities of spirits that are no longer, earthbound and that people are looking to connect to in their afterlife. So that's mediumship. And then Reiki is a more specific sort of certification and attunement where you kind of you learn about the history of the healing. It's a Japanese healing technique, alternative modality. Um, but the idea is that you're sort of studying this to become attuned to a very specific healing frequency. So you have a Reiki master who you study under, and they bring in this healing energy during our session and our time together. And the idea is it kind of, makes itself a part of you, and it brings you up to a higher frequency, and you become attuned to it. So you then can move forward and call it in yourself for the healing sessions with your own clients.
And for Reiki, is that how you pronounce it? Am I
Mm-hmm.
pronouncing it correctly? So for
Yep.
Reiki, I want to delve into that one first because it's the last one that you mentioned, and um, I feel like people have their prejudice with psychics and mediums. So I want to start with Reiki healing first.
Sure.
Um, with what do you feel is a good candidate for someone to be able to go and use that as a way of coping, healing, what have you?
Yeah. So I find that a lot of people can't quite put their finger on it sometimes. Like they'll just feel out of balance or like stressed. And I feel like they tend to notice physical sensations, or I guess just kind of like hindrances in their days. So, like headaches, and even just like sadness or grief, and wanting some sort of like relief with lifting that sort of energy away from their heart, or it can really be anything. I think a lot of what I do during my process and during the visualization and the energy work is looking at chakras. So I think probably most people are at least familiar with the idea, or have like heard of chakras. Um, and those can kind of signal different imbalances within your emotions and your kind of internal world. And then they start showing themselves, in your physical body, as headaches, as exhaustion, or like you kind of mentioned earlier, mind fog,
Yeah.
brain fog. That can be a big one too. So really, I think anyone is a good candidate. Maybe maybe not so much people that aren't open-minded. I do ask for people to kind of come in with an open mind and an open heart. I feel like you get more out of it that way, just kind of like
Mhm.
anything else. But yeah, I would say everybody's kind of a good candidate.
Do you feel that with Reiki, is there a lot of therapy that happens in the beginning stages? Like if I were to come to you for a session, let's set expectations for people that want to reach out to you.
Sure.
What is the process of going through a session of going through that kind of healing?
Yeah, so I don't expect anybody to come to me and like provide anything. I'm doing the providing. Um I do tend to ask people if there's a specific reason why they're seeking Reiki, just because, I want them to get out of it what they're looking for. So if they're coming to me and they're like, "Hey, I have this, pounding headache that's been lasting all week. Can you look at it?" That that's something we can, work through together. But typically I will kind of work in whatever direction that I'm pulled to. And um, sometimes, so when I call in the healing energy, I'm acting as a channel and kind of opening myself up to, like messages from the unseen world, if you will. And sometimes I get psychic messages from guides or loved ones. So they kind of intermingle from time to time. And at the beginning, I'll usually ask people, if I find myself tapping into these things, or if they're coming through, are you open to them? Do you want to hear about them? Do you want to hear about them in real time? I can tell you when they're coming through, or I can kind of take notes and then at the end debrief and we can go through it. So really, I would say the pieces are, why are you seeking it? If there's a specific reason, the energy work, and then some sort of discussion, just to kind of go through and make sure that they got out of it what they needed in that moment. But as far as like the structure and flow, they're all kind of different just based on what people are looking for.
So is it sometimes that someone could come to you with saying they have these headaches, but then perhaps you're being pulled energy wise to their stomach or whatever. And so although they're getting maybe these tension headaches, maybe the problem is really someplace else. And does that happen a lot? And then the stomach could heal the headache or what have you. Obviously, I'm being really in my example, but is could something like that happen?
Absolutely. And again, like definitely not ignorance. It's a great question. And I think it's actually really relevant. Actually, yesterday I had a session who I did a session for a friend, and there was a very strong connection between her head and her heart. And but she was struggling with like just racing thoughts and even like pressure in her head.
Okay.
Um, but I kind of, you know, once I got into it, I found that a lot of what was going on in her head was a result from emotions that she was holding in her heart, and that was a very clear like connection that was being shown to me. So we kind of, you know, worked on both in tandem and separate, and worked to get both balanced, because really, you know, if they're going to be communicating with each other, we need both ends um, kind of firing on all cylinders.
Is this something that you're able to do remotely, or do they need to be in person for you to get an actual sense of their energies and such?
Yeah. So I can do it remotely. I've done both in person and remote sessions. I think in person is great for people that, you know, sort of like enjoy massages and in person conversations and um, things like that. And then I kind of have a soft spot for remote sessions, actually, just because I do kind of consider myself to be a little bit of an introvert. And I think a lot of my clients at least can relate to that sort of tendency. And I think the remote work allows for you to create like your own space and like your own sanctuary. You know, you can put on your own music, have your own blankets, things like that. um, but yeah, this work kind of defies all time and space and can be done anywhere, which is great, and part of the reason why I love it so much.
So what got you into this? Because I'm sure the psychic and mediumship stuff you're born with that, right? So, and for anybody that I just also want to say as a PSA, and so you know where I stand, I am someone that I am not religious, but I am spiritual. And I'm a theater kid. So I believe in people leaving their spirits behind and all that. I'm very superstitious in that way too. Like all the things that come from being a theater kid, I am stereotypical in that way.
Love.
And I want to also say to people that might be listening to this, to the people that are naysayers or whatever, um, if you provide somebody happiness, it's not really for anybody else to believe. So, as a preference of this is where I come from as we move into this conversation, because I don't want you to feel judged at all, because I know that there's a tendency for people wanting to, I'm sure, have a gotcha moment, and that's not what we're here for. But I believe that is a gift that you are born with. You could tell me if that's correct or not. Did your guides and perhaps whoever, let's stick with guides for now, of the psychic portion of it before we go into the medium realm of it,
Okay.
does that bring you into wanting to be a Reiki healer, or is that something that you just became interested naturally and all of it happens to blend together really nicely? How does that all work?
Yeah, great question. And I do want to say like thank you for sharing. I don't feel judgment from you, but
Good.
but it's always nice to hear. Yeah, I don't live for those gotcha moments like some psychics do, but you know, to like prove people wrong. Um, but so yeah, I would say that it's something that you're probably born with. I think you know, I mentioned earlier, I think everybody has that little bit, you know. There's different flavors, just like, you know, anything else. You know, not everybody can be good at the same thing. So like, you know, I'm not a professional soccer player, you know, and I think some people will just never be interested in honing in their gifts. So that's fine. But I do think everybody has the ability to, if they so choose. My interests kind of go back forever, like being a little kid watching Harry Potter, like things like
Mhm.
magic and sorcery and, you know, witches, Halloween. I loved all of that, still do. um, but so that I think was kind of my first clue. And you know, getting older and having more experiences, I think, allow for your mind to expand, and then in turn your senses to expand as well. um, and for me, I just started noticing an opening of my awareness, which kind of led to more visualizations, kind of premonitions, dreams, so normal things that people would be experiencing otherwise kind of got a little, um, they got to the point where I had to notice them, I guess you could say. And in researching, yeah, like the psychic senses, it did ultimately lead me to the Reiki, because you use psychic senses to access Reiki and to work with Reiki, and tap into other people's, auric fields, energy fields. Um, and I noticed, yeah, like when I got attuned to Reiki, my psychic senses became so much clearer and easier to access. Um, the first, practice reading or healing session that I did in my Reiki attunement class, I had a lot of psychic information coming through, and luckily the girl that I was working with was so open and willing to talk about it, because these things that are coming through are very personal. So I was thankful that she was open to hearing them. But I think in doing that with her, it really validated the fact that not only is like the Reiki real and doing like healing, but my psychic senses and my messages that I had coming through all my life were real too. So that was like a real stepping stone. And I definitely give some of the credit to Reiki for for that.
Has that been the most rewarding part of becoming a Reiki healer for you, or has other things happened where that in your interactions with people on its own has been helpful?
Sorry, you broke up a little bit. Can you ask again?
Absolutely. So that what you just mentioned, was that the most rewarding part in your being a healer, or are there other things that maybe surpass that as far as being the most rewarding part of being able to help people?
um I think the most rewarding it's tough thinking about certain, I guess, philosophy that comes with this sort of thing, and morality, however you want to think of it. But um I guess the goal isn't for me to feel rewarded, it's for them to feel healed. But in other people healing, I do feel rewarded. So it's kind of like a complicated thing to grapple with. But I will say it's very rewarding to feel like something really hit home for somebody, and that they, because in my readings I ask that they're conversational. It's not meant for me to just be preaching and teaching at you. I actually enjoy when people are bringing something to the conversation and making it a two-way thing. So it's actually really rewarding when people can kind of say, oh yeah, that that actually makes sense, and like I've never thought of it that way. And I can kind of see the juices to start getting flowing, because that's kind of when I'm communicating with guides and spirits of loved ones, that's really all they want, is for us to grow and progress and be better versions of ourselves. So it's really rewarding to see that sort of process starting, if you will, like that spark.
Yeah. We talked a little bit before we started recording about the Hollywood versus reality of all of this. And when most people see something about a medium or a psychic, they're either thinking of Teresa Caputo, Long Island medium. And listen, like I was born and raised on Long Island. I only just recently moved from there, so I'm all for a Long Island gal succeeding. There's Tyler, the Hollywood medium. And then there's films like Ghost, right, where Whoopi Goldberg is, you know, uh, able to do all the things with Patrick Swayze. So when you're when you're going through this and doing these healing processes, or you're getting senses from wherever they come from, and I don't, let's not look a gift horse in the mouth either and try to question that too much, in my opinion. But when you're watching that, how does that relate to your own experience in real life?
Yeah. So I feel like all three are a very good example of different things. So Teresa Caputo brings about the point that we all have our own different personalities, right? And some are more outspoken than others. And I think spirit kind of communicates in our language a little bit. So for me, seeing people on TV that are over the top and making these big productions of interactions with spirits, that doesn't exactly, I guess, parallel my experience. I'm more of a soft spoken person and a more gentle delivery kind of person. So I find that my cues and my messages come in way more subtly than you would think. I think the average person watching, and myself included, before I, decided to dive into um, my gifts, were, you assume, oh my gosh, it's just going to hit you in the face and you're just not even going to know what to do with it. It's so overwhelming. And like, you see movies about possessions, things like that. And it's very much the opposite. I feel very in control when I'm connected to spirit. And I don't feel like anything, outside of me is ever going to take the wheel, which is usually comforting for people to hear. Some people, like you're saying, like are a little bit more hesitant to believe, but I have never had, anything remotely close to that that would be concerning. I think the ghost hunting shows are kind of similar, like very entertaining. And I do believe to some extent that people that are on those shows may have some ability to pick up on energy and are in fact reading real situations. But again, TV is TV, and nobody's going to watch somebody sit there and be like, oh, that felt cool. Like, they got to make it some sort of theatrical, to like really draw in the audience. So I think there's maybe like a little bit of both at play. The mediums on TV, the ghost hunters on TV, I think they're experiencing things, but they're playing it up like kind of an actor would to entertain people. I
Yeah.
think Tyler Henry is kind of a personal favorite of mine.
Okay.
I think they do a good job of keeping, keeping expectations where they need to be. He's delivering them in conversations very gently and mindfully, thoughtfully, um, because again, these topics that come up are very sensitive and personal to people. So I think he does a good job at, being mindful of their emotions and things that will come up when he brings these things up. And you know his delivery and his I think his gentle delivery is kind of reflective of how messages actually come in for most people, which is kind of
Mm.
quietly, gently, and lovingly.
Is it a constant buzz in your head that you're, because that's what it seems like when watching, is that it's just a constant buzz and you learn what voices, what things to ignore and what is happening right in front of you. Is that something that you have to navigate, or do you have to open yourself up and allow it to come in for it to be present and free to deal with it? I guess, for lack of a better way of phrasing it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Me personally, I find that I have to allow it in. Um,
Hmm.
I've done a lot of work, surrounding energetic boundaries, because I feel like that wasn't always the case, and it's still hard for me, I think, sometimes to be in a group setting or, um, different social situations where, you pick up on people's emotions or just things that go on in their lives kind of under the surface that you can feel, but people aren't going to just open up and talk about. So I've done a lot of work to sort of separate what's mine and what's other people's and how to turn it on and off. That for me personally, I kind of have to let it in. But that's not to say that things don't come in when I'm not asking for it. Because I think if the message is strong enough or the connection was strong enough, um, spirits were people too, so they can kind of just step in if you're an open channel. Um, and say, hey, like, I need you to tell this person right now, like, what this is, especially if, you're meditating. I find like when I go to yoga and meditate after, things just come in so easily. Same thing, falling asleep, waking up in the morning. So those in between states, don't have total control over what comes in. But again, it's never anything scary. It's usually just something that I kind of have to figure out where it fits.
So I have two different, three different encounters that I've had with mediums and psychics, and one is one of my really good friends' grandmother's has gifts as well, and she will not do it anymore because she, um, at, I guess, got a little. I don't know what it is. Spirit presented themselves to her, and she said to a friend of hers, like, hey, basically was able to predict that that person's ex-husband was going to pass away. And ever since, it ruined the friendship and things, it freaked her out. She will not read anybody ever again. She'll get like instincts and things will present themselves, but she will not share it anymore. How do you, what is it usually that you just stick to it of if people ask, then you will tell them whatever the messages are, or if it's super strong, will you just go up to people? How do you navigate the tougher stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I totally feel for her because I know that nagging feeling. Because usually if it's something that a loved one wants us to know, it's the same thing in real life. It's just like if they're in front of you, like you're going to be tapping them on the shoulder, like, hey, can we talk about this? Like, it's really important to me. So there is that nagging feeling, but I do think you kind of have to balance it with the fact that not everybody is in the same space and place mentally, emotionally, spiritually, just growth wise. And, everybody's on a different journey.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to make sure that if you are going to tell somebody something that they didn't sign up for, like they didn't sign up for a reading, they just are in your presence at the right time. um, I typically ask the question in some form or another, like, are you open to this in general? And then how, like, would you be open to a message like personally for yourself? um, so kind of like leading into it just to make sure that you're not bombarding this person with something that they totally weren't expecting that day, because let's be honest, a lot of this stuff is not expected. um, but yeah, I don't know, I think, and maybe that just is a personal thing for me too. I find myself doing that in other situations too, just generally speaking, wanting people to feel comfortable and not overstepping any boundaries and making people feel, put out by a conversation.
Yeah. And then another encounter that I had with someone, they said that their biggest challenge was that people, once they find out about their gifts, tend to use them and only become friends with them because they want to be able to show them off or whatever. And they were very much seemingly how you've described yourself, as like very introverted and things like that. So, how does that impact your day to day life, if it even does? And if that's too personal of a question, we could cut this out. But um, I feel like there's such a lack of respect, and good and bad, for people that have gifts such as yours. And I feel like your gifts are to be respected, not to be manipulated or used in any way. Um, so, is that something that you have to worry about or encounter?
um I don't personally. I actually have kind of found the opposite. Like I have a hard time opening up because of worry that people aren't going to understand it or care enough to try to understand it. Um, but sorry, kind of lost my train of thought for a minute. I
But
do
you, so
think
you're
that I have.
yeah. Sorry, I was trying to help you bring back your train of thought. I'll let's be quiet.
No, no, you're good. You're good. No, I do have good friends though that encourage it, which I so appreciate. And sorry if I'm not like covering the whole question. I think you cut out again a little bit before, but yeah, I mean, I definitely have friends that support it, and my family, some do, some don't. Um, it's, yeah, again, just kind of like discerning like who's comfortable with talking about it, and going from there usually.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to go. And my third encounter, which I've been to a couple of mediums and psychics, because again, I'm a very spiritual person, and um, I never really got anything helpful. But the one thing that I found interesting was, and I'll tell this story and I'll try to make it super quick.
You could-
I always had a problem with cats, or I should say, cats always have had an issue with me in ways that they never don't seem to have with other people. And this one woman randomly brought it up to me and she said, "Do cats just not like you?" Make a long story short, it was explained to me that apparently in a past life, I was an Egyptian witch and I tortured cats. And now in all future lives, cats are just going to have it out for me.
Hmm.
And it's become a fun, anytime I tell people the story, they now are like, "I'm going to go and bring you to my cat and let's experiment." I'm like, "I'd rather not." I'd rather just leave the cats alone and
Yeah,
like let's make peace in my future lives. I'll be okay.
right.
Is that something that, because you said that it's really for you about the future, are you picking up on things like that with people in their past lives or anything like that, or was that specific to that person?
Well, I do believe in past lives, and I do think that that might be sort of a different flavor, if you will, of
Mhm,
like specialties. I I haven't I haven't dabbled in like past life readings, like giving them. I've had them done for myself, um, but I have had little inklings come up, but they're more hints, if you will. So like I don't get the full picture, kind of like you were saying this woman was able to tell you like your whole life story or like context for it. I more so get hints like, have you been into this in the past, or like, are you into this, specific time period in history,
mhm,
um, things like that. So I mean, I do believe that past lives can have an effect on our our current life,
mhm.
however you choose to think about it, our parallel timeline. And yeah, what do you make of your past life? Like when she told you that, how do you feel about? Does that resonate with you? Does that make sense for you?
Not the Egyptian witch part, but if that explained the cats and why, because they would bite me in the same spot on my hand every time. Like there was a very strange thing. Like as a little kid,
Hmm,
my I never wanted to have any fear of any animal. I would always go up to them, try to pet with them, try to play with them. I was never taught to hate cats like most people are.
yeah,
I never had an issue, but they always unanimously had an issue with me. So it was a very strange, specific thing that she brought up. And I was like, all right, I if that explains it, then there we go. I
yeah.
wasn't gonna argue. And it's a fun story to tell now at parties that people seem to love, and people make me retell it over and over again. And it's the one thing that people seem are like, ah, yeah, totally connects when I look at you. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's that.
That's so cool. I mean, cats don't like me either, but I would so much rather have a story like I was an Egyptian witch.
Yeah.
Absolutely claim that.
It's I do, and part of me wonders because I do have very specific points in history that I really resonate with, that I wonder, okay, was I experiencing that at a point in time? But I would love to do a past life regression and see if any of that, but I actually really hate the ancient Egyptian era. I've always hated
Oh,
learning about it. So I wonder if that's why, because I had a really rough experience there. Maybe that's
yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, it totally could be. We don't know the answers. We don't have all the answers, I should say.
Yeah, I know nothing. I
It's
know
a good place
nothing.
to be,
Yeah. I
you know?
wanna know. Yeah, that's true.
Open to answers.
So yeah, if anything comes to you, I'm looking for a lot of answers right now, so if anything comes while we're chatting, I'm willing to hear 'em. But you were talking about protecting yourself energetically before and setting some energetic boundaries. What does that entail? Is it just that you tell spirit buzz off until I'm ready to meditate and like talk to you and open myself up? How does that work for you?
Sorry, you cut out again. I don't know if it's
Oh,
my.
you know what I can do? I can turn the camera off and see if that helps signal wise.
Okay.
So you were talking earlier before about protecting yourself energetically and setting boundaries. Uh, how does that work and manifest for you in setting boundaries?
Um, so yeah, I mentioned, kind of the effects that I notice kind of commonly, just mostly being around other people in person, having their emotions and kind of underlying feelings rub off on me without really trying. So that's somewhat unavoidable. But I will say, like, being at home, if I ever feel like, I don't know, if I'm being clumsy, I find that that's kind of registered to me as some sort of energy, kind of crashing into mine, like whether it be somebody thinking about me in a negative light, or like judgment kind of coming into my awareness a little bit, subconscious awareness. I usually take that as like a little cue that I need to do some grounding. So, it'll show up in little ways like that. But as far as methods, being at home and alone, I enjoy baths, showers, anything to do with water. I really love even putting crystals in water. So some crystals can go in water and some can't, but I really love amethyst, which is it's a version of quartz, but it's good for, gosh, everything. But I've found my psychic senses feel really soothed by amethyst. So I'll put some amethyst in like a water bottle, let it soak for a little bit, and drink the water, and that feels really good for me. Um, but then otherwise, candles, sage, anything that feels comforting really helps to bring everything back in balance. And then I would say probably the most important, if there was something that I had to name as most important, visualization. So every night when I go to bed, I will imagine this like bubble of light, and specifically ask Reiki to use it for protection. And it's mostly just to say, when I'm in my dream state, I want a peaceful rest and I want to wake up feeling good. Because, like I mentioned before, like being in a dream or meditative alternate state kind of leaves you open to things coming through, right? We dream when we sleep. So I find that I have calmer dreams if I try and protect myself before I go to bed. Um, or do the same before I go into a social situation that kind of is giving me some anxiety beforehand.
I feel like what you're saying can also be applied if you're just an empath. Because I was actually just talking about this with my grandparents before talking with you. Of it's just something that when people are saying things to me or when they're feeling emotions, I just take it on and I'm learning that there's nothing to be done about it. I am who I am and it's how you work through it. What
Mhm.
you just laid out of how you set your energetic boundaries, if you're working with someone in a healing session, is do you give them similar advice for them that you're able to take on your own, or do you go based off of the energy that you're feeling with them and tailor the advice to that? How does it work in a healing session?
Yeah, I will give advice kind of tailored to the person, especially if they are like halfway there, so to speak. They can tell me like, I know I feel this when I'm in XYZ situation. I just don't know what to do about it. Um, but otherwise, yeah, if they really are starting from kind of ground zero and wanting some advice, I'm happy to kind of walk through like what they experience, and then what that looks like, to protect from it. But yes, I would say empaths definitely feel it, even if you're not tapping into any sort of like psychic messages. Like emotions are very much a sixth sense that I think a lot of people kind of take for granted and don't acknowledge all the time.
100%. Where do you see, or what are you hoping? 'Cause, like, I said, I'm just a, an empath. Where do you see, or what are you hoping, 'cause, like, I said, I'm just a, an empath. Where do you see, or what are you hoping, for people to to be able to do in the future? Are you hoping to expand outside of Reiki healing and make it, are you just focusing on the here and now? Because I feel like you use your gifts for good and helping others. And I think that's so admirable. And I wish I could do what you do. I'm so envious. It's such, what a special thing that you get to do to live in a productive way of living your life. Is that something that you're hoping you continue doing, or are you just gonna go and let spirit guide you and you go and take it as it comes type of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do enjoy doing what I do now. I would definitely like to expand into maybe different modalities or just a deeper understanding. Um, Getting my Reiki Master certification. I've kind of been pulled a little bit in the direction of like massage therapy recently. So kind of like Reiki, but a little more hands on. I just noticed that my one of my stronger psychic senses is clairsentience, which is like physical feelings. So like I can feel things in my body, and I find that when I'm working Reiki with people, especially in real life, I kind of feel the need to work with the physical body as well, just because I can kind of feel what they're feeling in my body, and I feel like that will help, just further release for them. But yeah, I would say I definitely want to continue doing what I'm doing, but maybe expand a little more too. I would love to host retreats and show people beautiful places as well as beautiful healing. So that's the dream.
That's incredible, and I hope I'm able to be along for the ride, because
Would love to
I
have you.
hook, line, and sinker. But I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I do a rapid fire at the end of every episode, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with what we've been talking about at all. It's more of the eat, explore, love vein, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Perfect. What is your favorite food city that you've visited?
Ooh, probably Texas. I'm like a steak and wine girl, so that was right up my alley.
Yeah. Where in
Oh,
Texas?
sorry, Dallas. Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, I've only been to Austin and San Antonio, so I'm interested in just learning about what other people have enjoyed in Texas.
Yeah.
Uh, do you prefer a vacation that requires you to be active or relax?
Oh, the cop out answer is I like both, but I think if I had to choose one, more adventure over relaxing, because I prioritize relaxing so much being home, and
Yeah,
that's like so part of my health, like self care, that I crave adventure when I travel.
that's totally fair. I wish I were even capable of relaxing in my real life, so I'm very jealous. Um, what's the city that you learned the most about yourself?
Oh man. Well, I will keep a long story short, but I moved from my hometown in Atlanta to Jackson, Wyoming about a year and a
Mhm.
half ago, and that by itself was inspired by intuitive pushes. But I think my first year there, I learned a lot about myself. It's just kind of a magical place to be. I felt like the vibrations were so high that I had no choice but to grow.
Yeah, yeah, I relate to that very much. And what a different answer. That's so lovely. And so, everything that you've said, I feel like once I get my finances in order, I'm definitely figuring out how to make an appointment with you. But where can other people find you?
Absolutely would love that. So my website is ineffablealchemy.com. Happy to spell it, or if you want to put it somewhere. But my website is there, and I'm also at Ineffable Alchemy on Instagram and Facebook.
And we'll make sure to put it in the show notes for this podcast.
Great.
Is there any miss before we officially stop recording? I just want to make sure because again, I'm very ignorant and am interested, but know nothing about. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to make sure it gets out there to the people?
Oh gosh. Um, no, I mean, I would just say that if you are interested in a reading, there's nothing to be afraid of, because I can't access anything that you're not giving me control of. So I think some people get a little intimidated, by just their own fear of being exposed or feeling vulnerable. And I just want that to be clear, that at least in readings with me, I do my best to, emphasize that self-agency. Like, you maintain control of everything, and we work together for a common purpose. So that's just really my only thing. But otherwise, thank you so much. I think your questions were awesome.
I'm glad that you felt that way and that this was a safe space. But thank you so much, Lindsay. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And thank you for trying to make the world a better place. I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for having me, and you doing the same.
Good. We should join together and be our own Marvel universe.
Yes,
Um,
love it.
Till next time. My conversation with Lindsay has remained with me ever since I've had that conversation with her. I'm so lucky that I got to meet her and have the conversation with her, and I hope to be able to continue any type of relationship with her. And I hope that you look into her services and see, even if it's just to have someone that is a calming presence in your life, that you reach out and see if her Reiki healing is for you. Again, I think you need to leave any judgment at the door with conversations like this. And the more open you are, the more room there is for you to heal, for your spirit and your emotional health and your physical health and all the different types of health. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you have any thoughts or opinions, I would love to hear them. Reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Till next time. Thank you for joining me this week for all the fun journeys and lessons learned on my big adventure called life. For more information on the different cities discussed, check out the blog posts on hieatexplorelove.com, posted every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Until next week, remember to eat well, explore the world, and love yourself. See you next time. This episode is produced, scripted, and edited by me, Ashley. Special thanks to Sarah Mientka.